Hello and welcome to Inside Salem. I'm your host, Mike Allen. On this show, we try to go behind the scenes of what's happening in the headlines and give a little more information and a little more background. And for that reason, we assembled a crew of people that know these things. We have Domingo Dominguez, former Councilor at Large. We have Tom Furey, former Councilor at Large, former school committee member and current planning board member, and Megan Stott, current school committee member and former Ward 6 city councilor. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of the topics we'll be talking about is the new Salem High School, a fine for not shoveling your sidewalk. One of the things I liked when I was on the school committee was the Black Cat Cafe. I guess now it's a sort of a food pantry. We'll talk about that. And ranked choice voting. But before we start off, as I often like to do, is I get some update on some of the projects before the planning board. Tom, if you could give us some
we see some
info.
Visible things taking place now taking place in Salem. The lot on the MBTA lot is being developed now.
That's what we refer to as the Crescent lot, and it's right next to the MBTA garage, yeah.
And that will give a catalyst to the two courthouses being done on Federal Street.
Yeah.
That's going to be very exciting. Then right across the street from the courthouses is the Tabernacle Church.
Yes.
And that's going to have 32 units of veteran housing. Veteran housing.
Huh.
I'm a great proponent of veteran housing.
Yeah.
When I was going to college at Salem State University, we had a lot of Vietnam veterans coming back to go to Salem State University.
Right, and Rainbow Terrace was
And Rainbow Terrace.
was all veteran.
And this is going to be a high-end,
time, yeah.
more studio apartments for veterans, but they probably won't have cars.
Yeah.
They'll be living in the Tabernacle Church, and this will take place, all the paperwork and all the work, doing things in the planning board. It's like taking a left-hand turn on the Titanic. It's very, very slow and cautious. So this process of the Tabernacle Church, which is a jewel to downtown Salem, near the courthouses, 32 units, mostly for veterans, handled by the State Veterans Association. Kim Emmerling, our veterans agent, will be a part of it too. So that's very, very exciting. And then
just if I could ask a question about
please.
that. So the church is still going to be there, but this is in addition to...
they'll use the community room as a community room. The veterans, it's really nice to bring them all out of their studio apartments and so make it a community out of the situation. So very positive. The church will remain intact. And concerts and things like that, and services will take place.
And many people would be familiar with the community room because they used that as a meeting place for jury duty.
I served jury duty there myself. Yes. Remember we
so
served jury
was,
duty.
It's a private program.
A little bit louder.
It's a private developers do.
A little bit of a state event. They've got a track record statewide, and they pointed out like Tingsboro, different places. They've done projects and so on. So they got a good background history. So exciting for Salem to have veterans in downtown Salem, stable, good housing there that they can respect. And unlike Rainbow Terrace, I think after 1945, after World War II, and the GI Bill of Rights, that got turned around in a different direction.
Right,
It's not all veterans now, it's mostly mixed housing now. So this one will be really geared strictly for veterans.
Right.
And if a veteran moves out, another veteran comes in. So which is ideal.
Right.
Okay. And another big change coming to the map of Salem is right across the street from the fire station, our fire station on Derby Street and New Derby Street is the, what's it called? The Gateway Center. It was a good name for a Gateway Center. And that includes the North Shore Bank.
Right.
Lo and behold, they found out there's a culvert underneath that whole project, an old culvert, and they have to dig up the culvert. In order to dig up the culvert and make it a 21st century culvert to serve that building, the whole building's going to be torn down. The whole building. The North Shore Bank itself will be torn down, and it will all from scratch. Commercial downstairs, and 3 or 4
CDC involved in that
project?
Pardon? CDC? Isn't that the CDC involved in development?
Yes, exactly. Big time. Big time.
The health center?
A little bit louder.
The health center will still be in
Yes,
there?
the health center will be down below. Artist studios will be up there.
Okay.
And where Wendy's is, right next to Wendy's is going to stay. It's going to may not with all the Wendy's. Some of them are going under nationwide. Wendy's, but right behind Wendy's is a 4-story high building of housing. Very little commercial, and that
Yeah.
so that's going to change the map of Salem. So a lot of exciting things: the old Jerry's, the courthouses, Tabernacle Church. I love serving on the planning board. It's really neat things
Yeah.
happening.
Now, is the Jerry building going to be torn down and rebuilt, or are they going to build on top of it?
They're going to build on top.
Okay.
That won't be. That'll be a very challenging site, as we all know. It's
Yeah.
parking is almost limited. So that
Parking is non-existent, not limited.
Non-existent.
Non-existent.
You're being polite. I'm being polite.
Let's
Yes.
call it what it is, non-existent.
They may have to shut down part of Essex Street in that process.
Yeah.
Because it's 3 stories high, and mostly small units for single people because such a demand. They were going to have 2 or 3 bedroom places there, but the demand is really for 1 bedroom.
Okay.
And small units.
Yeah.
This is the future.
Yeah, and from a taxpayer standpoint, that's a plus
That
because no schools. I mean, no kids in the school because if you, for the most part, I mean, if you have a 1-bedroom apartment, there's going to be minimum kids. Or if you have a 3-bedroom apartment, you know that you're going to be having at least 2 children, and then maybe more because siblings often share bedrooms. So,
Another big
from
project
from a tax point of view,
It
it's
is.
better to have small units like that.
And one big project I think we've all gone past recently on Highland Avenue, there used to be the tropical fruit place, Tropical
Yeah.
Fruits, and they moved across the street, made a whole new building across the street from Polio's on Highland Avenue, and they're doing a thriving business. Now, the food pantry, North Shore
Yeah.
Food Pantry is in there now, going full speed ahead with trucks moving in and out to serve the North Shore. And it's very exciting for Salem to
It's a
have.
great location for that purpose because it's
Yes.
very convenient to get into the highway and to bring food and get out too. So I think that's a great move, and especially with the traffic and the the changes that any community bring. I know they used to be in the Channel Park, even though it's a big location, but they had to go through a neighborhood in order to get in and out. So that way, being Highland Avenue is more convenient and more appropriate and more, I think, more healthy for the entire community.
Yeah.
A great need, serving a lot of good people, a lot of good
100%,
needs.
100%
Okay.
you.
So thank you.
Okay, very good. So, let's first talk about fine hike for not shoveling your sidewalk. I was always an advocate in front of it when I was on the city council that businesses need to really shovel their sidewalks early, often, and very wide. And I used to get on the businesses that did not because it makes the whole downtown unwalkable. If you can't walk one spot in the downtown, it makes it all unwalkable. So I used to be a very big advocate of shoveling. However, it seems to me, driving around, and I don't know much about this particular storm, but in the past, is that the biggest violator of this was the city responsible areas, like where that didn't belong, things adjacent to park, adjacent to the MBTA garage. It seems like these places were never shoveled or infrequently shoveled or plowed, or snow blowed, or whatever they did to do that. So I just think that before they start hiking fines on people, and probably many of the people who don't shovel their sidewalks are probably elderly. I would say that they should get their own house in order, as well as fixing some of the potholes that we have here. We've developed a ridiculous number of potholes over these storms, which you do every winter, but it just seems like they should be some temporary patches put in there because it's really detrimental to automobiles.
Having a fine is not necessarily the panacea to having snow removal in a downtown area or in front of your house in a residential area in Ward 6 where I live and you live. It's not a panacea. You served on administration and finance, and putting Mayor Wu has the same problem in Boston of snow removal. And these couple of storms have been really challenging to cities and towns like Salem and Boston. We have the high-tech equipment, very good snow plowing equipment that could melt these snow mounds down, but they're very expensive if you want to bond So you've seen some improvement in the administration and finance, buying equipment for the DPW, hiring the right contractors to do it. Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of comments about the snow fines, of course. Two things. So first, I think we had a monumental amount of snow this year, and it was really hard for everyone, for the city, for the residents, for businesses to keep up with it. So giving a little bit of grace for that. I think that having this fine conversation during this time when we're still literally shoveling out of it is not the best time to have the conversation about raising the fines. And that is why kind of part two of my comments would be last year, over the summer, we had the conversation. Last winter wasn't as heavy snowfall as this winter, but we had a lot of like small, really kind of like annoying storms that if people didn't shovel their sidewalks and clear it, it was really hard for the neighbors. So we had a kind of a post-season recap of that in the summertime, which is when you should do that, right? And we invited the city inspector, Board of Health, DPW to talk about best practices, make sure everyone knew who was the city responsible for shoveling around parks, things like that, what the priorities were. And we had a great conversation, and we actually talked about fines a lot. Fines are not supposed to be really a money generator for the city, but they're supposed to stop the bad habit and encourage those to shovel and clear their sidewalks. So for the elderly that can't get out there and shovel, we shouldn't be slapping a fine on them immediately. We should be connecting them to services that can help them clear the snow. On the flip side, those businesses that are repeatedly not clearing their sidewalk, we should be doing that and should be using that, because it's the first initial fine, but then you can also fine them for each day that it's not cleared as well. So there needs to be that conversation and that balance. And the same fold, we need to make sure our DPW has enough resources, the sidewalk machines, the bike lane machines, to actually remove the snow on the city property as well. So it's a really large conversation that needs to be had. It needs to be filled with data. It needs to be understood, like how many fines were issued, was it helpful? And last year, we actually did increase the fine. So $25, I think, that's a low fine for businesses and commercials. That's really like, for a business, $25 is going to be cheaper to pay the fine than it is going to be to hire out a company to come and remove the snow. So 25 is a little too low, I think. We did move to raise it to 50. Something got lost in the recording of that it's still listed as 25. So that needs to be worked out. But a lot of these conversations, I think you need to look at retrospectively, right? Like, is it helpful raising that fine? Is it creating the solution that we want, like the cause and effect? Does raising the fine help clear the sidewalks, or does it just make everyone more mad because the city's not doing as great of a job? So,
now, wouldn't it make sense to have, and not sure how the mechanism would work, to have a company charge cost? Not like when they do the tow cars and they tow a car and they charge, $300 to tow a car for an hour and put it in their storage thing, which is very onerous to those people who thought they parked legally or they whatever. So, but to actually take and have someone come up with a snowblower, cover off the sidewalk, charge $50 for it instead of paying the fine, or whatever the cost, because what does it cost per hour? Or in other words, if someone has a 50-foot frontage, someone with a snowblower can probably clear that off in 10 minutes. So it just seems like maybe something where they would have a service, a mandatory service. You didn't do it, we're going to come out and do it. Here's the bill for doing this service. Something like that.
That's yes, to my point and to you guys' point, I think that would make sense. I always had the idea that the administration had to facilitate the most to the residents, and not only impose maybe a way to wake up, because I understand where they're coming from. I know there's some landlords, absentee landlords, and people who do not live around, that they have property here and they abandon that property in all aspects. And the only way that maybe we can make them to be aware that they need to clean is maybe by putting a fine or something. But on the other hand, I think the government, the city have to provide more than one alternative. And I think the one that you offer is very good. That would be a great alternative. So allow people not only to be fine by not doing what they have to do, but here's another alternative that you can also choose.
Yeah.
You can have a company, or we can do it for you, but we send you the bill.
Right.
That
yeah.
way, it's a fine, but that way that facilitate to them so they can be able to do it.
Right. I mean, the thing is this, I mean, the reason why I would think that it would be best to have the city collect from the property owner is that the private company has less leverage. The private company is going to go down a street and do every third house or whatever, and it could be sort of a quick hit for them. They're not going to collect that much per unit, but they're going to overall have a very steady paycheck for the week. But they don't have to worry about collecting the money because the city would guarantee it. And then the city, their guarantee is based on liens on the property, non-renewal of business licenses. So they have leverage which a private business wouldn't, which is why
you're talking about something similar to the garbage collection system that we have, in which every landlord who had rental had to pay a fee every month for that. So they might have a snow removal fee, including on their bills, so they can have that systematically going on.
Yeah. With an opt-in. I mean, some. I mean, that would actually make sense for property owners if they could sign on in advance to have it done within the prescribed time. That might be something worthwhile. The problem is, much like I mentioned with the towing thing, someone has a car towed, one of these private towers, tow companies. I mean, it's an absurd amount of money for what it is. I mean, where they charge, $100 a day for storage, and including the first hour or whatever. And it's just, I wouldn't want it to be that way. I would want it to be a little more user-friendly than something like that.
Yeah, well, so I like the creative problem solving. Like, that's what we need to have. Like, there have been a lot of conversations about high school students. They all have to get volunteer hours for National Honor Society, for example. So get a big list together of high schoolers that can go around and shovel out their neighbors' driveways in the different neighborhoods. Like, there used to be that process before. So creative ideas like that, connecting neighbors, things like that, are all conversations that need to be had. I'm sure a lot of people have those ideas with them. Having it in the thick of this, but I still can't walk down the street, is really hard. So I think it's a much bigger conversation that needs to be had other than just raise the fine. To have a solution be the city do it and send the bill, the city is having a hard time keeping up with what they need to do just for city properties. So that's where it would be, we would have to get additional manpower, more staff, and yes, the actual work of it for 10 minutes of pushing a snowblower down the sidewalk, what's the cost of that 5 minutes? But there's so much more about that, right? Like, you have to have insurance for the worker, you have to store the snowblower, you have to have maintenance on the snowblower. So while the cost seems a little astronomical, everything these days has more than just the basic time hour cost. So it would just be, again, increasing our city budget when I don't think any of us would be doing that right now. No. But the creative solutions, we need to have those conversations, and I'm sure people have lots of ideas, because ultimately the goal is to have people safely walk down the street, especially the students going to school. That was the part that frustrated me the most.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think still on Highland Avenue, on the left-hand side heading towards Lynn, probably right-hand side heading towards Lynn, there's a sidewalk that's shoveled, but it's not cut through the corner on the street. And so people have to go out the driveway, kids, I notice high school kids, it looks like, when I go by in the morning, and they have to go out, walk on the street, get 2 lanes of traffic there, and then they go into the next driveway.
I will say, for anyone listening, email snow@salem.com for those specific areas, because especially if it's city property, the city will make sure someone goes out there.
This is not. This is
if it's not city property, but it's an area that needs to get cleared because people are walking into Highland Ave. I know I saw a lot of the bobcats going up and down Highland Ave, but
Yeah.
especially around the high school. Just because gosh, a kid walking in Highland
It's a
Ave
safety
makes my
issue.
heart go.
Especially for our kids, I need to pay more attention to. We can no wait on something happened there before and then.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Okay. Okay. Well, speaking of Salem High School, City Council has approved the going out to bond for the city's cost of the new high school, and if the override passes, which May 5th, is it?
Yes.
May 5th, there'll be a vote for the override. If it passes, the average tax hike, and that is a big word there, average, because it could be way more or less than that, is going to be $682 for the average real estate tax bill. Where do we stand on that, Tom?
I went to the open house of the high school that we know as the high school back in 1975. I was thinking of running for school committee even back in those days, 1975. So I took a whirlwind, beautiful tour, Mayor Zoll and the superintendent at the time, and it was a beautiful, on paper, beautiful school, absolutely beautiful school. Salem High School, automotive center, real good. We thought the state of the art would be 100 years, easily, 100 years. 10 years after that was built, 10 years, 1985, my freshman son went to his freshman year at that new high school, what we consider the high school, and I suggested him, and that's very unusual to suggest, as you know, a teenager, they're not going to follow you sometimes as a suggestion. So I said to him, wear a hat to school, wear a jacket to school, and God bless him, 15 years old he did, because in every single classroom, 10 years after that high school was built, buckets were everywhere, in the auditorium, the gym, all the classrooms. The heating system was off. He wore a jacket almost all year round, a hat almost all year round. And that was 10 years after it. Under Mayor Tony Salvo and Usavage and Harrington, they all put big bucks into that high school. A new roof, new pointing of the brickwork. 10 years after the high school was built, you couldn't see inside outside with the windows.
Yeah.
The heating system was bad, the pointing system was bad, low bid contract. Back in those days, UMass went downhill, Boston, low bid contracts, UMass Boston. We just low bid contracts. You get what you want, you get what you get with a low bid contract. And Salem High School, on paper, looked good, but we got the low bid contract, and we suffered the consequences of that. And my son, I could picture him, and very unusual to tell a 15-year-old boy, you should wear a hat to school. And he did. He did.
Yeah.
There were buckets of, so that high school has always been like an albatross. And now we have a chance to put it into the 21st century, build a brand new one, $450 million high school. It will be the best investment that you and I will make. Better than cryptocurrency, better than the stock market. We're investing in our kids. 30% of our population in Salem and nationwide, 30% is young.
Yeah.
They're 100% of our people. And we need to invest into our young people. If our parents said the same thing today, what's happening today in the argument about building a new high school with $450 million, there's letters there that are going in and out saying, oh my goodness gracious. But it's the best investment. You're investing in the future of the city of Salem. People will come to Salem because of our educational school system.
What did the Hampton Inn Hotel cost? Do you know?
That I don't know. I really don't know. That's a big corporate there. And you can see that's all ready to go. Big Fred's is gone. And the AT&T building, the building, the next store is gone too.
Yeah.
So they're all ready to go in the springtime to tear those buildings down and build the Hampton Inn.
Well, that's Marriott.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the existing building. Do we know what that cost?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think it's really tricky, though, to look at building costs pre-COVID and post-COVID, because building costs are just rising exponentially. And there's some fact that I saw about every month we wait, the costs go up another couple $1 million. So it's really, the rising cost of everything is just very scary. When we do look, though, comparatively, how much is our project? Like, why does that number feel so daunting? It feels daunting because it is daunting. It's a huge number that we've never seen before. But when we look at other high school building projects in the area that are happening at the same time. Ours, per square footage, because it's really the best comparable way to look, is of the lowest. So I think we are looking at ways to get that number down as much as we can, but building costs are just astronomical. Astronomical. And I'm learning so much about building in the 70s and why it was so bad, and it's crazy, very crazy.
Question for you, you involved with the school committee. They have revealed the amount of money that costs to repair the existing building versus the new building?
Yeah, so there were many options presented, 4 or 5, I think. One of them was including renovation of the existing building. And I want to say that estimate was around like the high 300 million. A lot of that, though, is the concerns around that is we would have to restart again for MSBC, I'm saying those letters wrong. We would have to start again for the reimbursement process, because right now we're in the queue for the reimbursement for a new build. Because we voted to go for that. But also the renovation of the existing building, it would be very piecemeal, right? So like this classroom sizes aren't adequate, the hallway sizes aren't adequate. We tried to fix the HVAC system, so then you have different systems with different lifespans together. So it's kind of putting lots of still band-aiding the renovation project versus just
isn't
start fresh.
The new high school going to be significantly smaller footprint-wise than the existing one?
It's going to be more deliberately sized, right? So yes, it will be smaller and better
the other high schools designed for baby boomers. The baby boom
not
generation.
even that. Like the square footage, like the hallways are, you can land
Even
an
the Sherman
airplane
tank.
in the hallway. It's very wide. And then to think of that space that you have to heat, right? So a lot of space that you're heating that's not even utilized. So just more efficient space planning. The classroom sizes aren't adequate for classrooms today. So a lot of just efficiency in that regard, that you're not, heating unused space, things like that.
So if it is voted down, what happens then?
If it's voted down, I will be sad. But it's actually a really scary path that we'd have to go, because we would get basically right into a queue to possibly lose accreditation for the high school, because they've stated that our building is not up to par to have accreditation. So we would have to go down that process. So it's not going to be an immediate but it will be that process of the queue, and then we will have to find money to start doing major repairs in a different manner. So using the capacity to the levy, reducing other city services, figuring out the budget there.
Okay.
So.
And when we lose accreditation, what does that mean in English? Because does that mean people from Salem High School cannot go to college?
So it doesn't mean they can't go to college, but it would be what colleges will accept your graduation certificate from a high school that's not accredited.
Yeah.
So it would really harm those students to not have that accredited diploma. It would also greatly reduce our student number, right? People will not be sending their families would be moving out of Salem for sure in waves to go to a town that has accreditation to get their education, and we get paid per student, right?
Right, but wouldn't that then create a sort of a boon for house buyers? Because now all of a sudden the properties would be less desirable, and so those people who were without children would find it very affordable to move to Salem.
Yeah, so property values would definitely be affected. They would go down. So all of our homes that we've kind of been holding on to and have this, property value as our stock, we could potentially lose that. It would negatively affect it. I don't know how many families would then want to move into the city. Well,
that's just not family, but now we're talking, people who are without families, without children.
People still look at property values as a whole when they're moving into a city. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
A couple of things that I'm concerning in regard to not only to this action on the new building, but many other aspects. I feel that sometimes the communication factor to communicate to the general public is not really aggressively, if not to bring all of the aspects that need to be out there so people know exactly what's going on. If there is any campaign into that to try to communicate in a bigger scale exactly what does that mean, because what we're talking here is about the future of our kids, but also the package of the taxpayer who actually are very, very hard surviving mood eventually, and they wanted to know exactly why they wanted to have a new building for. So if if government communicate that in a better way, I think that would be easy for everybody to absorb it. And the other one is that, I mean, with the potential of changing on new leadership on the educational department, you know, by the leaving of the superintendent to a higher position now, do that change any dynamic on how we're going to approach the new project that the city of Salem is embarked at this moment, to make sure that we really have not only the new building that we envisioning as a whole, but also have all of the aspects necessarily to not have the same mistake that we had in the future, to create and build something that maybe 10, 20 years from now, we had to sit down again and say, hey, we made a mistake, let's do it again. There is in place a blueprint map that whoever comes as a new leader going to follow through and make sure that that happens, and we cut all of the four corners of the angle and we see exactly what we want to see. That's a question that I asked, that I have in mind. I don't know if we can have that answer, but I think, like I say, we need to as a city, we need to do a better job communicating at all levels when we have projects of that magnitude.
Do you mean new leader, like the superintendent?
Yes.
So I'll first answer yes, we need to communicate out. So a campaign just did start now that the council passed to go to the voters and pass the bond. The campaign is now starting. The communication you'll start seeing it. There's a website that has been launched. I was just looking it up to make sure I said it correctly, but it's voteyesforsalem.com, I believe. Let me just double check. Yes, voteyesforsalem.com, all spelt out. And that has a lot of the FAQs, campaign information, so we're kind of combining everything so questions can be answered. And of course, more community meetings we'll be having around. So any suggestions you might have on getting that word out or questions that you hear, happy to collect those answers for you. And then in regards to the new leadership, that was the big news of last month, is that the superintendent, Drake, is taking a role with the state. So there will be an open position, but I think all of that's connected, right? And the search committee, that will be a big process for sure.
They've had 25 meetings already. They've gone to neighborhood meetings and all sorts of meetings throughout the city of Salem. So they're working very, very hard to educate, because that's what it's all about, education.
Yeah, but okay, let's take a look at the Sargent throughway there that we have, Bridge Street bypass. There were tons of meetings on that thing, and one of the things that the business community was concerned about was signage. When you're coming from Beverly South, is there a sign that says don't go on Bridge Street because that's not Salem? And they assured us that everything was going to be fine. And again, I'm in the downtown area, so it wasn't, when I say us, I'm referred to as the Chamber of Commerce. They assured that they wouldn't be doing that. And then the signs come up, and what does it say? Swampscott. So a tourist coming into town is going to bypass Bridge Street entirely. And there was tons of meetings, but it didn't do any good. It was talked about the meetings. It was always a thing, no problem. And then when it got done, they just put up the signs. Same thing with the MBTA garage. I think it's a terrible looking building for Salem. And they kept saying, oh, it's too early to talk about the actual design. This is just a thumbnail sketch. It's too early to talk about the thumbnail. And then all of a sudden, it was too late. We're past 30% or whatever it was in design, and therefore we can't talk about restructuring the building. And when people say, well, you had to get whatever. I mean, I would have taken what they built in Beverly, which was built at the same time. That look of what they built in Beverly really fits downtown Salem more so than what they had there. So again, having all these meetings with all these people, with all the stakeholders, I find is not all that reassuring in terms of what the end result is.
And Salem is the biggest stop all the way down.
Yeah.
Beverly has 4 stops. Beverly has, and Salem has the biggest garage all year round. It was used when the storms. Many people could get off the street and go into the MBTA. So it has a lot of use all year round. Just not in October, haunted happenings, and that was a big mistake by the state. I don't know how the businesses on Bridge Street survived in that signage situation
Yeah.
that tells people to avert Bridge Street.
Yeah.
A quality business like Coffee Time, the 99 restaurant, there's a hotel
Yeah.
on that. So they all took an impact
Yeah.
on the signage there. That was a big mistake, and it hurt those businesses.
Right, and again, it was something that was discussed ad nauseum with the state.
Yeah.
And there was reassurances, oh no, that wasn't going to happen. But somewhere along the line, someone decided differently, and up comes the signs that says, this is the way to Swampscott, this is the way to Salem.
And the city council did a mistake when I was on it with Councilor O'Leary, who was the president at the time. The Parker Brothers, SoFi condominiums where the old Parker Brothers
Right,
was.
most of them are rental
that was
apartments.
supposed to be a rectangle at one time, a rectangle. The whole development of SoFi, Parker Brothers, was supposed to be a rectangle, all in a rectangle with a community center in the middle, a pool in the middle. But the city council in Salem, in their misjudgment, misleadership, chopped it all up so the bypass road cuts it right in half.
Right.
So the city council made mistakes, the state made mistakes.
Yeah.
There. It's costing us now.
Yeah. And there was also a proposal to put a hotel there long before there was the apartment complex. There were Jefferson Properties that built the apartment complexes. And that was proceeding along, and then I believe it was when Mayor Yusevich was out of town and Councilor O'Leary was the acting mayor. He threw a monkey wrench in it, and the developer of the hotel pulled out, because I think a hotel would have been a much better fit for that than what we have there now.
He delayed Councilor O'Leary to his misleadership in some areas. He took a whole year of it being built, the artery being built, the Bridge Street bypass. So a lot of missteps were made in that process. And the hotel could have been a positive situation.
Yeah. But okay, because very possibly we wouldn't have that monstrosity at Riley Plaza. I mean, I had nothing against Hampton Inn. I just think the building is way too large for that area. It's huge. It's just dominating. But touch upon the fact the superintendent is leaving, and going to be heading up the education system for the state. That's Jim Fleming, who was on this panel for many years, was always a big advocate for him, and he had disagreements with some of the superintendents we've had over the years. And the name is pronounced Reiki?
Shrike.
It's Reich, Dr. Reich.
Right.
Okay. And I'm terrible with names. I apologize. Everyone's name I've butchered over the years. Anyways, Jim, who was on the school committee for many years, was a big advocate for him. Of course, Mayor Driscoll was mayor. At the time was mayor when they hired him, and she is now lieutenant governor. I have to believe that played a little bit role into it, that she was very familiar with him. And he's done a very good job here in Salem by all accounts. So
Yeah.
He's a bright
congratulations
Chinese,
to him.
A six-year, he had a 6-year contract. He could have gone for another couple more years with us.
Yeah.
But he's a bright shining star. With his background that he had coming to Salem, he was the right fit.
Yeah.
And Jim and I didn't always get along on this panel or in his career, my career. But he is a bright shining star. He'll do a dynamite job as Secretary of Education, and it's going to be a major loss. And it's one of the biggest decisions that the school committee will make in their 4-year tenure. And they'll have, you can talk about maybe the screening committee that will take place, but it's the biggest decision she'll make probably in her 4-year tenure on the school committee, picking a superintendent to outdo or maybe redo Dr. Zweig. And that was very challenging.
Yeah.
Megan.
Yeah, for sure. Choosing the superintendent is, I think, the most important role of the school committee member. So having that happen so soon was unexpected, but also very happy for Dr. Drake. It's going to be an amazing role for him and quite an opportunity. We have not had a school committee meeting since the announcement, so we will have to have that to really spell out what the process will be. We will obviously need to appoint an interim superintendent, as this is happening pretty fast. So I think he's going to start next month in his new role. So we will need to appoint an interim superintendent while the search goes on. But similarly to when Dr. Zreich was brought on 6 years ago, which I think as a parent, I watched that very closely. And he really, I think, kind of righted the ship and turned things completely around. So he came in during a kind of a tough time, righted the ship, and has really left us, I think, in a great spot, a great strategic direction that we're on. We all have similar goals. We just need to, find that next person to continue that, which
Yes, I had the opportunity and the honor to be on the screening committee that was created by former Mayor King Driscoll in that moment, and where we have to interview some of the candidates. And Dr. Zreich, out of the amount of candidate, which all was pretty good, was a star in that regard. But one thing that I like to maybe highlight on his leadership this year that he had with us is that he was everywhere. He was one of the leaders that I think the Salem community need in order to really see and deliver on actions what Salem needs. I can attest to that as a politician, as a former city councilor. I used to go to every event, and I used to see Dr. Zreich over there talking to parents, talking to leaders, talking to everyone, making sure that he really, grabbed the community feeling and maybe delivering to the education that our children need. So that type of leadership is very strong, and I think that's one of the legacies that he's going to leave here, beside any other aspect that I'm not too professional into that, but as what I see from him was his strong community advocate that he got in his leadership. Yeah. And like everybody mentioned, I think Salem's going to miss some of the great leadership that we had, and hopefully he can do a great job in this state level. And we wish him the best. We don't want leader that magnitude to leave, but what can we do?
Mm-hmm. Now, when I was on the school committee, which was only 4 years, which is one term, we had two superintendent hires. The first one was very easy. We had promoted the assistant superintendent to superintendent. That was Dr. Larry Callahan to replace Herb Levine. And then, when Larry retired, we hired William Campbell, who was here for I think about 6 years.
Title I?
Yeah, but his family was up more up in Worcester, past Worcester, and it was just
good friend of Dr. Walsh.
Yeah, correct. That's correct. And I served with Dr. Walsh for 2 years on the school committee, and he was on this panel for a couple of years as well. But so our best wishes to Dr. Zreich, and good luck with the process of finding his replacement, because all the word that came down about him I've heard was
he was very proud of his Cuban background. Mm-hmm. So that he was a natural. He brought that natural leadership. And we've had an evolving door of superintendents for a long, long time. 2 in your tenure, quite a few in my tenure too.
Yeah.
And we need someone with stability, continuity, leadership we can trust for the future. With a new high school coming on board, we hopefully will have a superintendent that will take the reins of Salem into the 21st century and stay a long time.
Yeah. Well, the problem, and I've talked about that on this show, and actually school committee meetings as well, I believe, is that what happens is you get a superintendent, you get a new superintendent, comes in with a 5-year plan to improve the schools, and then they leave after 4 years because they get a better offer. And so now the new person comes in with a plan, a 5-year plan, and nothing ever gets resolved, because there's no longevity because of the revolving door, not just in Salem, but pretty much everywhere, the way that's set up in this state. You just get revolving doors, quite a bit throughout, for the superintendents. And that was one of the things where when we were hiring a police chief, that at one point in time, Mayor Driscoll wanted to open up the process. And I and Jim Fleming, we were opposed to that because of the whole we don't want to have the same thing happen as we have with superintendents, where a new chief of police comes in and they're hired guns, as opposed to someone who has community roots. That doesn't make everything rosy, but I just think that there is some help to have community roots in these type of positions.
And we lucked out with Bob St. Pierre, Paul Tucker,
Yeah.
and Mary Butler, who knew Salem and the roots of Salem. It's very important to know the roots
Yeah.
of Salem, what Salem
Yeah.
is all about. It's a very unique, challenging city,
Yeah.
diverse and beautiful city that we all live and we're
Yeah.
very proud of to live in it. But we need someone who knows the DNA of Salem.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things that they're concerned when you bring in people from outside. But that's just the nature of the beast right now. So
Yeah,
that's
but
what it is.
I mean, there's the things that maybe special moment in which we have a great leader also as a police chief, Lucas Miller. I think he's actually inserting himself into the community in a way that it is difficult to say he's from here or he's not from here. Because
Right.
he's been
Actually,
involved.
I believe that we
Been
did well
involved,
by
yes,
him.
like
Yeah.
like Dr. Strike, that's another leader that's been involved with the community, and I also can attest to that as a former city councilor. I see chief of police involved big time with the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, again, I think the city did well by him. And as I say, it's not always the case that but again, the record with superintendents, not just in Salem, but pretty much everywhere, is that there's a revolving door and they all come with 5-year plans and they're all there 4 years, So we never see the culmination of their plan.
Great.
Black Cat Pantry. Now, when I was on the school committee, it was the Black Cat Cafe, and they used as a training ground for the culinary students. This is now a bit more than that. It's just, so it's
Well, the
providing.
cafe is still there also, yeah.
Oh, so there's still the okay.
It's still the cafe, yeah,
Okay.
and then adding the additional services at the pantry.
So what is exactly is the addition? What did they add? What?
I wish I knew the details to that one. I need my list beforehand. But I believe they're adding food pantry services at the Salem High School. So, but they're still going to have the Black Cat Cafe where culinary skills are being taught, and you can go in and as the restaurant environment, order meals, which I've heard the dishes are excellent. And then on top of that, adding food pantry services at the high school.
Very good.
One of my sons took part in the culinary arts department. And it's a dynamite program for future cooks, chefs, and hotel managements, and so on. And the Salem Diner, right near the Rolling Avenue, Sylvania plant, the middle campus, the Harrington campus, is going to be moved to the high school.
Hopefully.
Ah,
Be excited.
okay.
Very excited.
And
That's
the,
good.
And the
I mean,
culinary students will be either the
Culinary
culinary
stu-
students
Yep.
will be able to use it, or if it's down by the fields, it could be used as like a
Spectators
concession.
have a hamburger, hot dog, whatever.
Yeah.
It's been donated by the Salem State because it's been donated by Salem State.
Yeah.
Because it's not in use right now. It's
Okay.
so it would
It's
be.
a good piece of history there.
Yeah, exactly. It would be really cool to be able to have that as a working restaurant. 'Cause
Yeah.
the
I think
culinary
that was-
program is really great, and
That
we're
was
in
mentioned
Salem.
before to ask Salem State to donate it because of the importance that it is to have that piece of history where the new generation know exactly what happened in there for many, many years. So
Yeah, it's
that's
a really
great.
cool, really
That's
cool
great.
place. I remember
Great.
going there as a student at Salem State, getting the breakfast.
Good memories. Johnny Pesky, who used to play and coach for the Boston Red Sox, there was a special place in the Salem Diner called the Pesky Bench because he lived in Swampscott and ate there. And then for Salem State students, when you were going there, it's a great place. It was, I think it's going to be really dynamite for Salem school system to have that icon of Salem.
Yeah, oh, those type of buildings, I mean, for one thing, are icons nowadays.
They're dinosaurs.
They're
They're
dinosaurs,
endangered.
like that.
There aren't that many around
but
anymore.
Yeah. So I know there was, just prior to the pandemic, there was a proposal that seemed like it was moving along where it was going to be put on top of a 4-story building in the downtown area, which would have been pretty neat as well.
The Salem Hotel one owned by the
roof.
Shea family, right across the street from the CVS, it was supposed to be on top. They have a nice dining facility now.
Right,
Architecturally, I don't think it was sound enough to be put on top.
right, yeah, okay.
Creative dreams. Right?
Yeah, but anyways, okay. Governor Healy has proposed an increase in money sent to cities of $1.2 billion over the next 5 years. We'll see if that goes through. She proposed legislation to do that. We'll see if it goes through. And we'll see, Mr. Cynic that I am, whether or not that it continues past the election. Because it's an election year for her, and there's some chinks in her armor. So who knows if this is going to follow through on it or not. But if it does, it helps the cities. But on the other hand, it's just taxes coming out of someone else's pocket, from a different area being transferred to. And then, of course, there's winners and losers. There'll be some cities that make more, that will take in more than what they pay out, and there'll be other cities that are paying more into it than what they get out of it. So, any word
No,
on any of that?
at the state level, I'm not too involved with what's going on, but I have no idea what to comment into that. Let's just leave it that way.
Yeah, okay. I'm always Mr. Negative on these things, yeah. Tom?
Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, our former mayor, is going to have a very contested race coming up for re-election in November. The congressional race is going to be very contested. 9 people running for Congressman Moulton's position, who's now running against Senator Markey. So those issues like that you brought up, it's going to be central on the front burner.
Right.
And it's going to be a very difficult race for Governor Maura Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. And I'm very prejudiced, I like both of them, but it's going to be very challenging. 2 women run against several Republicans with high, deep pockets there. One gentleman who's running for governor on the Republican ticket owned the Abiomed company, Johnson & Johnson heart transplants. And he's running a very dynamic, aggressive campaign. So these type of proposals by Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, they have to be on the front burner because that's what people are interested in.
Okay, yep. Any comment on that?
I don't have much to add over that. It's going to be an interesting race, right? Especially for the 6th district with all of those contenders in there to fill the open seat. Yeah.
Okay. Ranked choice voting. City Council has voted to move that forward. Myself and Jim Fleming have always been opposed to that pretty strongly. Other people less so. Some people in favor of it.
Is that already the home rule petition that's supposed to be being sent? Do you know?
The home rule petition's been sent. It hasn't been approved yet, so it's with the State House.
Okay.
There's a lot of steps that have to happen for it to then come back.
Once again, my comments in that regard has always been education. How hard we're going to be able to educate the people who actually, with this system that we have right now, sometimes don't go out and vote. So if the education component is going to be in there for any new or any other type of program that we have, that's going to guarantee that's going to be successful. But if there's no education, it's going to be less than what we have, and I have a lot of concern into that. I want to see more people getting out to vote, exercising their right, especially the Latino community sometimes will not go out because they don't know exactly. And I've been working so many years into politics that's been my biggest challenge. So I want to see something that really, really work to get people out to vote and really exercise their rights, but elect the leaders that the majority want. And that sometimes those type of programs sometimes do not really target those needs that we have in a city like Salem. Especially, I don't know other cities in town, but Salem, we need to find a way to bring more people out to vote. And any idea that we have, any new thing that we have, need to be strongly involved with the educational component so people can come out and vote.
Okay.
My hat's off to Domingo. I lost twice for school committee. My races for school committee, the first 2 times I ran for school committee, I lost. Domingo was the perseverance of what public service is all about. Now, you had no name coming on board. You ran 3 times. 3 times before?
4 times.
4 times before you got elected. So ranked choice voting may be an opportunity, a catalyst, to give recognition and respect to a hard-working person like Domingo did over the years. My name, Furey, is not a recognizable name either, routine, and I lost twice. So maybe rank choice, maybe something of the future. I'm kind of skeptical, but it's going to be a long road, as you said, a long road.
It's a long road, and change is hard and confusing. So if it's not correctly communicated out and explained, it won't be good. But hopefully it is, because I've heard positive things about it.
So we have 2 minutes left in the show. Our last topic here I want to talk about, I would like to have a little more time with it. City Council has sent to the state, or is in the process of sending to the state, might have to have more votes to do it, but to raise the cap on the number of retail pot licenses in the city of Salem. Evidently so that the city of Salem will get a bigger piece of action from there.
I like to see a very deeply study of what we have so far in many regards. I remember when that discussion came in front of us when I used to be a city council. One of the issue was what are we going to do with the funds that we bring it in. I think that we deserve to give a very wide explanation on what's going on, what happened with what we have, before we're talking about increase any amount, because one of the things that happens is sometimes we don't know where the funds going through. I mean, we use the language that's going to help this and that, but at the end, we don't know exactly what's happening. So we need to report to the general public on what's happening presently, and then after that, we make a decision if we need to increase or we need to decrease depending on what the result that we see in front of us.
Okay.
We had a combined meeting of the planning board and the city council to talk about this issue, and I was the only vote on the planning board to vote against any new addition of new dispensaries, because they're fighting for the fittest. These businesses that are located in Salem for marijuana, it's a tough business to go into a marijuana business, and the prices are going down, the competition is high, and I think any new dispensaries in the city of Salem is an insult to the people that put their time and effort into investing in the city of Salem. They put a lot of their own money and resources in, and the city did very well with some of these marijuana dispensaries with some residual money that the city got back. So I'm against any more new dispensaries. I think we have enough now to survive or the fittest. We don't want any of our own local businesses that now fought very hard to get to the where they are now to go under. So to increase it even by one, I was against it.
The clock ran out for my vote on it, and I think the clock ran out for council. They'd have to resubmit it again in order to do anything, but I was in favor of increasing by one for a equity license, to provide a license to a business owner that would fall into the category that has been historically harmed by marijuana regulations, to allow them to become a business owner for dispensaries. I think that would be equitable and make sense, but to just open it up for a license for anyone, no, I don't think there's a great demand for the increase in those licenses, but I do think hitting that the equity goal would make sense and increasing it to one, sure.